إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات الله وسلامه عليه. قال صلى الله عليه وسلم من يرد الله به خيرا يفقهه في الدين اللهم فقهنا في الدين وعلمنا التأويل يا رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah, today is our first day in the new class, the new fiqh class that we are starting, which is the explanation of Umdatul Al-Fiqh by Ibn Qudamah Al-Maqdisi. And this book is a book or a manual in Hanbali fiqh. So the author is Hanbali in terms of his fiqh, and this book, you can consider it like a manual for life, right? Now, when we talk about fiqh, the topics that are discussed are usually they start off with the authors. They would start off with the fiqh al-ibadat. So whatever we have to do with our worship, in terms of our salah, how we make wudu, that comes before salah, of course, how we make Tohara if we don't have water, etc. And then they would go on to zakah and hajj and fasting as well, right? This would be in the first part, right? They would cover Kitab al-Tohara, which is the book of purifications, then move on to salah, and then move on to in this book they would move on to zakah, and then hajj, and then then fasting, and then hajj. And then the second part of fiqh would be fiqh al-mu'amalat, and that would deal with business transactions. It would deal with any of our interactions with other people, right? So any type of interaction you can think of that you do with others, that would be the second half of fiqh, right? And that would deal with business transactions, marriage and divorce, when you go to a court, if you're dealing between two different people, right? All of that, that would deal with. Also, if a person commits a crime, how he's dealt with. It would deal with inheritance, if you inherit from someone else. Any type of transaction, any type of interaction you can think of that we deal with on a daily basis, that the second part of fiqh al-mu'amalat, would cover that. And all of those ahkam and rulings are mentioned in the books of fiqh and are mentioned in this book of fiqh as well. So when you look at fiqh, it's basically like a manual that a person needs in order to navigate through his life. And it's very important that the things that we're directly involved in, we understand the rulings and we have the knowledge of how to go about doing them. For example, a person is a businessman. He runs a big corporation or organization. Then for him, he needs to know the rulings of buying and selling, right? Because it's wajib upon him, right? A person that is married, right? He needs to know the rulings of marriage and how to get married and how to, if divorce happens, etc. Right? He needs to know, the rulings of who takes care of the child, etc. Right? So whatever you're involved with, it's very important that you have that knowledge and that understanding and that ilm on that particular area. Now, since we'll be starting with, and usually the authors, they start off with ibadat, and this is because, most people, they have to do ibadah, right? Most people, it's wajib upon them, right, to pray and to fast and to give zakah, right? So we learn these ulum first, because for most of us, it's wajib for us to do these things, inshallah ta'ala. Firstly, we'll start off with a bit of an introduction from the musannif, the author himself, to have an idea of how he authored this book and how we'll be navigating through this book and what we will be covering and what we won't be covering, inshallah. We'll summarize his introduction. And it's important that we read the introduction so that we understand the intent of the book, right? And we don't get sidetracked on going on to other things. So alhamdulillah wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. The author first, he starts off by sending his praise and salams, by sending his by giving hamd to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then sending his praise and salams to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he talks about the reason why he wrote this book. And it's very interesting. You'll notice that this reason is a reason which many other scholars have, or many other scholars have the same reason why they wrote many of their books. So he says that this is a book, and I'll be translating into English. This is a book of jurisprudence. أما بعد فهذا كتاب أحكام. This is a book of أحكام في الفقه. اختصرته حسب الإمكان. I tried to summarize it as much as I could. Right? It is a book of fiqh, and I tried to summarize it as much as I could. واقتصرت فيه على قول واحد ليكون عمدة لقارئه. And I limited myself to one opinion so that it would be a reliable source. It would be a place that, a masdar, a reference that the reader would go to. So, many times when we study fiqh, this is an issue that always comes up, is that there are so many different opinions, right? This person says that, that we should do this. This person says, no, it's the opposite, right? And many times, a person when he studies fiqh, he would get confused because there's so many different opinions on one thing. And this, the author here is saying that, this is a beginner level of a beginner level book. So he has limited it to one opinion only, right? And this is so that if anyone wants to go back and check, how do you pray, or how do you make wudu, or do I need to do this for wudu? Is this wajib or is it not? Did I miss one part, or is my wudu valid or not? You can go back to this book and you can find out exactly what it is. And he won't mention all the differences of opinion and confuse you. And then at the end you'll be confused. One scholar says it's allowed, one scholar says my wudu is not allowed. You go back here and he has one opinion, one way, and you can follow it. And that is the way that the scholars have recommended to study fiqh, studying from one madhab, one scholar, one book first, one opinion, and after doing that, studying first you study the qawl, the opinion of the scholar, opinion of the author, and then you study the reason why he mentioned that opinion, the dalil behind it. And then if you would like to further your knowledge, then you can go into the different ikhtilafat and the differences of opinion after you have studied one, right? So he said that he has limited himself to one opinion in this book. And then he says, rahimahumullah, he says, وَلَا يَلْتَبِسَ عَلَيْهِ الصَّوَابُ بِاخْتِلَافِ الْوُجُوهِ وَالرِّوَايَاتِ. And I did not mention the different opinions of Imam Ahmed, or the differences in the madhab. So in the actual madhab of Imam Ahmed, since he's a Hanbali scholar, there are some differences, and there are some different narrations from Imam Ahmed himself. So he says that he did not mention those different opinions or different narrations because he wanted to choose one opinion, one qawl, to make it easier for us. And then he says, سألني بعض أصحابنا. Some of my brothers asked me, right, to summarize and make it more accessible for those that wish to learn and memorize this ilm, right? So he says, سألني بعض أصحابنا تلخيصه ليقرب على المتعلمين ويسهل حفظه على الطالبين. So that it would make it easier for someone to learn, and it would make it easier for someone to memorize, right? So back then when they would write books, they would not only just study it, but they would memorize it as well. So there are people that actually memorize this entire book, right? And then he goes on by saying that how he answered the request, and towards the end of his introduction, he also mentions that I included in it authentic narrations for the blessings and authority. I chose them from authentic collections in order to avoid the need to reference them. So he mentions that he mentioned some ahadith in this, and he only chose from authentic references, and they are from Sahih al-Bukhari and Muslim, so that he wouldn't need to reference them. He wouldn't need to say that this is from this book or this is from that book. So we'll start off with the first chapter, inshallah, and we'll take one mas'ala for today, bi'idhnillah. Kitab al-Tohara, Book of Purification. باب أحكام المياه. خلق الماء طهورا يطهر من الأحداث والنجاسات فلا تحصل الطهارة بماء غيره. So he says, water was created pure and purifying. It purifies from ritual impurities and physical impurities. Therefore, purity cannot be attained by any other liquid other than it. So he starts off by explaining water. And the reason why you'll see when you open up any book of fiqh that they start off with the chapter of purification, and before that they start off with water, is because we need water to make wudu, right? And we need wudu to make salah. So this comes first before everything, before you even start praying. And Tohara is, the word Tohara means purification. And there are different types of purification in Islam, right? Number one is physical purification. So when we talk about the purification of our body, making sure that there is no najasat, there is no impurities on our body. Number two is the ritual purification, right? Which is purification such as wudu or ghusl, right? This is a purification that you cannot see. Rather, it's a state that a person is in. And the third is spiritual purification, which is a purification of the soul. The books of fiqh generally talk about the first two, which is physical purification and ritual purification, right? So how to purify yourself if there are any najasat or impurities on your body, and how to purify yourself in order to pray the salawat. Now, water, the scholars have mentioned that water is categorized into three different parts, three different sections or categories. Water which is pure, which is tahur, water which is mixed, and water which is, or the third category of water, which is najis or impure. So tahur, meaning that it is pure and it purifies, meaning that it is water which is, it's pure itself, and you can use it to make wudu and to purify yourself, to make ghusl, to take a bath, take a shower, etc. Right? And this is, as the scholars have mentioned, the original type of water, meaning water that is naturally from the rain or from the oceans or from the the wells or from springs, right? Tap water. All this is water which is considered tahur, which is pure and purifying, meaning that you can use it for purification, and it's also pure. You can use it to drink it. You can use it any way you want. The second type of water or category of water is water that is tahir. It is pure in itself. However, you cannot use it to purify yourself, meaning that you cannot use it to make wudu or ghusl, right? And that is water which is mixed. So for example, you have tea, right? You have water, you put in a tea bag. It's not considered water anymore. It's considered tea. You cannot use that to make wudu. You cannot use that to make ghusl, right? It is considered water from an aspect that the majority of that mixture is water, right? Same with juice and with Coke and etc. These different mixtures. The majority of it is water. However, the name of water has been removed. We don't call it water anymore, and it's mixed with other things, right? So this type, it's pure. It's not najis, right? If it comes on your skin, you don't have to clean it off. If tea spills on you, it's something which is tahir. It's pure, but it does not purify you. So you cannot make wudu with that water. You cannot make ghusl with that category of water. The third type is najas, and this is impure, and we'll go into some more detail of what it is. However, generally it is things that are that prevent you from praying if it comes on your clothing, on your the place where you're praying, or on your skin or on your actual body. And it is, for example, urine, stool, blood, the dead animals, etc. These things are considered najas, right? And they are impure. And these are things that you cannot have. You should not have them, in the place where you're praying or on your body, etc. If it comes on you, then you need to remove it, right? You need to remove it before you pray. And you can, and the ruling for najis is that we are not allowed to use it for purifying ourselves or for using it to consume, right? We're not allowed to eat it or drink it as well, right? So najasat, we're not allowed to eat it or drink it or use it for wudu. So the three types is, the first one is water, right? Regular water that we all know. We can use it for both purifying ourselves, making wudu and ghusl, and to consume or to put on our skin, to wash, to whatever we want. Second type is mixed water, water that is considered tahir, or the category that's considered tahir, and this is the type that we can use for consuming, but we cannot use for spiritual cleanliness, for making wudu or ghusl. And the last type we cannot use for none of the above. It is najis. We cannot use it for wudu or ghusl, or we cannot use it also for consuming or for any other type of thing that we would like to use it for. And we'll end here, inshallah. Sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in.